Hey there, Internet. Welcome back to the first podcast of 2016.
Was it the first podcast of 2016?
Did we record another one and it just...
I thought we did about the last season of Black Mirror.
Didn't we record that before New Year's?
Was it?
Welcome to the show that can't keep its own timeline straight.
I know we did Krampus.
Because we did Krampus. That was before Christmas.
Yeah, that was before Christmas, and then we did... did we also do the Black Mirror final... That's when we may have done the final season of Black Mirror. Yeah, that's... so, okay. Well, welcome to our podcast.
Well, you know what? Fuck it. The date's not important because we're watching a Christmas special. And we're playing catch-up by talking about it in January.
Yeah, so... speaking of Black Mirror, we watched the Christmas special of Black Mirror. And my first impressions are, oh god, this is disturbing. I need to get back in the Christmas spirit by watching something else. Not quite as disturbing, but very disturbing as well. So I watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's Christmas special, which features a pantsless elf singing about how Danny DeVito is going to be cannibalized, torn apart, and burned alive by his friends, and then kept alive so that he can endure more pain. It also features a child sniffing glue and watching an elf, a little person dressed as an elf, flash his ass at him, and then go upstairs to sleep with the kid's mom. So, it was...
Wasn't that wasn't that the Charlie flashback?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because...
So yeah, how... Did you not spend your holidays doing that shit? I thought that was standard.
No, I spent my holidays going into other people's houses and opening their presents, and then the next family would show up and we'd have to run to the next house.
Right.
Oh god, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that show.
God, I was at a party, and they just had Always Sunny playing kind of in the background, and then it was the musical episode with the Dayman.
Oh, yeah.
And the entire party stopped for 20 minutes just to watch this special.
So I heard that there was a Phillies game once that, or it was either a Phillies or an Eagles game, where, on the subway ride home, or whatever, apparently everyone just started singing Dayman. Dayman! Dayman! Fighter of the night, man! Champion of the sun!
You're
a master of karate and friendship for everyone. Yeah, so, and of course, Green Man always shows up to those games. It's just,
Was Green Man I don't follow sports. Was Green Man a thing before Always Sunny?
Technically, what happened was Rob McElhenney, he said that he went to an Eagles game, and his one friend, who is a brain surgeon, by the way, which I totally believe. My brother's a brain surgeon. He's all sorts of types of different... He's not what you would expect if you watch ER or General Hospital.
So he's not good looking, is what I'm hearing.
I wouldn't say that. He is more like Scrubs.
Oh, okay.
He's like the Turk, I guess you could say, from Scrubs. So dude, high five. Whoosh. He's more like that than anything you'd find on
More
ER.
like the I think, didn't Cox refer to them as scalpel jockeys?
Yes. Yeah. Except, they're brain surgeons, so they're incredibly smart.
You know what? We have a presidential candidate who's a brain surgeon who's not saying some very smart things right now.
He's intelligent, but has low wisdom. See, that's where D&D helps me out. He has a high intelligence, but very low wisdom.
He also has a painting of himself with Jesus.
So, Cuba Gooding Jr. portrayed him in a TV special once. Did you know that?
Ben Carson?
Yeah.
Fuck, I gotta go watch that shit.
Yeah, and now Cuba Gooding Jr. is playing as O.J. Simpson, so he's made a new career out of portraying people that no one seems to like anymore.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
I like him.
Was he in Cool Runnings? I feel like he should have been in Cool Runnings. He wasn't in Cool Runnings.
He was in Snow Dogs. He was in...
That's right. Snow Dogs I'm thinking of.
Jerry Maguire. That was a great one. He was in, Just a lot of stuff. Oh, Rat Race, that's one of my favorites. But yeah. Anyways, though, I forget what I was talking about. Oh, yeah. So, Rob McElhenney, his friend who's a brain surgeon, just like after the game or during the tailgate or something, they were out in the parking lot, and he just like reaches into his trunk, gets this green suit, and starts walking around telling people, "Hi, I'm Green Man," and like just posing for pictures with everyone, joining tailgates, whatever. And so Rob McElhenney just like wrote that into the show. He's, by the way, for those of you who don't know, that's Mac.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like tailgating in that green lycra suit would be awful because you can't. There's no like mouth on that, so you can't eat all of the delicious snacks unless you're like Dr. McNinja and you can somehow eat it through your mask.
I think he just like would take the head part off.
You can't take the head part off; it ruins the illusion.
It was just like a spur of the moment thing. He might have been drunk or just didn't care, like high off of life.
Eagles are football?
Yes.
Okay. I know about sports. Shut up.
See, I know a little bit about sports because my family watches it, but I don't watch football unless you're talking about the European kind.
Yeah, I was never able to get into sports, and both sides of my family are big sports fans. And my dad has still, to this day, has not forgiven me for not being starting quarterback at OSU.
Oh my gosh, come on. My brother's kind of like that, but I think he's sort of reserved. Like he's sort of okay that I'm mediocre now.
So your brother, you said your brother.
He's a
athlete and brain surgeon.
Yes.
Oh fuck, that must have sucked growing up under that guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's great and everything, but yeah, is definitely an overachiever.
See, I'm the oldest, so I got to set the bar, which was awesome. Yeah. However, like, my mom thought I was never quite as good as the neighbor kid, so I would routinely get scolded for not doing as well. Because they when your elementary school kids hang out, moms talk, I would routinely get scolded for not doing well as the other kids' moms were bragging about them doing.
Yeah, for me, it's like there's a dichotomy in my family. I have a twin sister who I'm nothing alike. I shouldn't say nothing like her, but we don't have as much in common as she does with my older brother. She's also very athletic, very smart. She's actually working in a lab now as like this biology lab and doing some neat stuff. I don't know if I'm trying to avoid details.
Yeah, but we're gonna be internet famous, so who's gonna have the last laugh then? They might be saving lives and doing research. We're talking about movies on the internet. Nobody else is doing that. This is groundbreaking work.
So I have a lot more in common with my older sister, who is much more into like artistic stuff, and she loves reading. She loves Miyazaki and Neil Gaiman, and oh god, like all the stuff that I love, she loves. I guess I just sort of go a little bit nerdier on it with my love. Like I love Star Trek, and I don't think has watched a single episode of at least the original series. She may have watched some Next Generation every now and then, but she's a big Doctor Who fan, so there's that. David Tennant,
just the hot one.
She didn't like Matt Smith. I don't know what her thoughts are on Christopher Eccleston. I think she liked him, but she didn't like Matt Smith. I don't think she's really watched much of Peter Capaldi though.
Peter Capaldi. I've watched everything. I'm totally up to date. Peter Capaldi is a terrifying man. It took me like 2 episodes because he has that really intense. He has those really intense eyes, and he has that really just narrow face, and he's a terrifying man. And he's in another movie. Where he plays a character who's working for the British Parliament, and half the movie is just him coming up with some of the most offensive and creative insults you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, I've seen clips of that. That's awesome. I finally sort of like got Peter Capaldi's doctor when he started playing electric guitar and started
On
wearing
a tank.
Yeah, on a tank, wearing like
Wearing,
hoodies and
he
like
became
old
because
rock
he
star
had
stuff.
the first season where he's kind of crotchety, and then he came back and he became midlife crisis doctor.
Yeah, you know what, I like that.
He plays like guitar, and he hangs out wearing a hoodie now, and he swapped out the sonic screwdriver for sonic sunglasses. He's midlife crisis doctor.
I kind of think of him as like the old rock star doctor, because like he's got a bunch of big hits under his belt. He's been, rocking out since the 60s. There was a big drought in the 90s for him, but with one big hit, which a lot of people will be like, you ask these people who watched it, oh, did you like that one thing he did in the 90s? Well, I liked this one part of it, but I hated everything else, So he's like a rock star.
Yeah, I can see that. That seems applicable. Not gonna lie, season finale legit made me cry.
Have not seen it yet. I watch this stuff with my mom. She usually goes to bed at an early hour, and I usually work very late. So I haven't seen the season finale yet. I got up to the part with the Zygons.
Oh yeah, you're still like 4 or 5 episodes back.
Yeah. So I saw the part with them. That was it. The first episode with them, I finished that one. Still working through the rest of it. Or it was either the first or second. I don't know. Either way, I have not seen the season finale.
So, speaking of British rock stars, we've recently had I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the recent passing of David Bowie.
Right. So, yeah, I actually have not listened to as much David Bowie as I wish I would have. And I'm sure I'm going to, be echoing this next time another big rock star died. Like, Alice Cooper. If Alice Cooper dies, and tomorrow, I'm sure I'll be echoing the same thing. Like, oh, I really liked him, but I didn't listen to him enough. But now I will. But I don't know. I really don't think that's a bad way of honoring someone's life, is listening to their music even after they passed.
Well, the thing about when someone does this sort of work, especially anything creative, anything artistic, there's no way you can do that well without putting a piece of yourself into it.
Yeah.
And so I normally don't get too teared up over celebrity deaths because I realize that I knew their work, but I never knew them as a person. But I feel like Bowie is a bit unique in that there's just so much personality and there's so much of him in all of his work and his public persona and everything that he's done that I do feel like I know him a little bit better than, say, I knew Robin Williams.
Yeah.
When he passed a few years ago. So, I was, I spent all of last night it was just me, wine, and a Bowie album on vinyl.
I do have one Bowie album on my computer that I listen to. It's Ziggy Stardust and the Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. It's an early concept album about an alien rock star in a dystopian future who I believe is murdered by his bandmates because he had such a huge ego. It's really good though. One of the songs ended up making it into Guardians of the Galaxy, Moon Age Daydream.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I spent last night trying to listen to some of his other early stuff. Listening to his other early stuff. So I listened to all of Man Who Sold the World, and I found out that Major Tom has a saga. Believe it or not, he has his story continues after Space Oddity. There's Space Oddity, then Ashes to Ashes, and then the Pet Shop Boys remix of Hollow Space Boy. And then there's this electronic artist named KIA who did a song called Mrs. Major Tom. And it's basically Major Tom's story told through her eyes. Oh, and there was another one by some sort of German new wave guy, Peter Schilling, it was really popular back in the day, back in the 80s. It was like weightless, earth below, sky above. I can't remember how it goes, but it's about Major Tom basically passing on to heaven.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that actually just goes to show how big of an influence Bowie had when other people continue the story of a character he made in an old song.
Well, I know for me, one of the biggest things about Bowie was not just his music, but he had such a huge public persona of letting the freak flag fly in the most spectacular way possible.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, he had the Ziggy Stardust character, and then he was always it was always very much he's weird and he's going to do his thing, but he's going to love himself for it. And I feel like that in itself is something we don't have nearly enough of. There was nothing really like him at the time, at least not that I know of, and you know what? There's still not enough of that now.
Yeah, the closest things I can really think of to like people who just let the freak flag fly.
It's hard to say, isn't it?
Freak
I
flag
love the expression,
fly.
but it's hard to say.
Yeah, so those people, let's see, there would be, let's say Alice Cooper, Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson did like an homage to Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. It was Mechanical Animals, was where he also made a song about an alien rock star who fell from Earth, or who fell from the sky and then became like a rock star on Earth, and then became so involved in the rock star persona that I think he ended up committing suicide or something. I can't remember how it goes. I haven't listened to Mechanical Animals. I'm not as much of a Marilyn Manson fan. I mean, he's got some good songs. I just never got into him.
Yeah, I never clicked with Marilyn Manson. I have nothing against the guy.
No, me neither.
It just I was never a big listener to his music.
Yeah, Brian Warner was from Cleveland, although he hates being called Brian Warner. Sorry.
I can't imagine why.
So, I'm definitely gonna listen to some more Bowie when I get home.
I gotta say though, my all-time favorite David Bowie appearance was actually not Bowie himself. It wasn't his music. It wasn't when he was in the movies, although I love his movies. It was when he showed up on Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
Venture Brothers, which is basically itself just this ongoing spoof of the Johnny Quest and that sort of genre from the 60s. And there's the League of Calamitous Intent, right? It was a guild? The Guild of Calamitous Intent. And it's just this giant organization of supervillains, and they had this faceless sovereign. And then we find out in one of the season finales that this evil sovereign is actually just David Bowie.
Yeah.
And he has shape-shifting powers.
Yeah, and like when he made his first appearance or whatever, he just at the end he said his blessings, gave his blessings to
Dr. Girlfriend.
Yeah, to Dr. Girlfriend, and then turned into an owl and flew away. And Dean was there, and I love what he said. He said something like,
it was like the guy from Labyrinth just turned into a bird
and flew off.
That's the best thing. It's not David Bowie playing a character. It's not a character who looks like David Bowie. They wrote him in as the David Bowie that we know.
Yeah. And so there was another great line, something about what's your favorite Bowie album?
Oh yeah, it made me feel like a poser because the one I was listening to was Changes One, which is I just kind of inherited in a big stack of vinyl I got at one point, and I listen to it all the time. And the two henchmen are arguing over what their favorite Bowie album is. The one says Changes One, the other one says, "You poser, that's a best of." And now I feel like a huge poser because that's the only Bowie album I actually own is the best of.
Yeah, that's... all I have is Ziggy Stardust, and The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and The Spiders from Mars, and that's a long title. He has had a huge influence. He just released an album. Big surprise there. Just on his birthday, no less. It was Friday.
Yeah, we're recording on. This is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
He put the album dropped on Friday.
Yeah.
And then I think he died. I got the news. My little news app went off at like 2 a.m. Sunday night.
Yeah.
It's like 2:30 a.m.
And that's so it just seems like a really poetic way for him to go. He released a final album, which I've listened to a few songs from there, and it's really good. Released a final album on his birthday and then died. I'm sure he was expecting it to.
Right, because it was cancer, so he was expecting it. But you got to admire someone who loves what they're doing so much that they're willing to work right up to the end.
Exactly. So, congrats, David Bowie. We raise our glasses.
We have Earl Grey right now.
Yeah.
So we raise our Earl Grey to you, David Bowie.
Now, should we start talking about the...
Sure, well, we'll stay in England, but first let's go get some more tea, because we're going to need it if we want to get through Black Mirror.
Okay. Will do.
Alright, so Black Mirror, as anyone who's listened to us before knows, is a British anthology series, roughly in the same vein as something like Twilight Zone, except it's a lot darker and it usually has some exploration of technology.
Yes.
And now the Christmas special, the Christmas special is particularly interesting, because we have two intertwining stories, but they both deal with similar themes.
Yeah. So, actually, wouldn't it be like technically 3?
It gets complicated. Just so you know, we do this. We'll give you a brief synopsis of the episode. We both loved it. We both really loved it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna wanna go and do it cold.
Yes.
So, right now we're just gonna say if you like anything, it's smart and it's dark, and it will definitely it'll hurt just a little bit to get through it. But if that sounds at all interesting, go watch that. It's streaming on Netflix right now. It's just under Black Mirror season 3. It's listed as the entire season. Go watch it now and then come back and listen to this, because we're going to be throwing out all of the spoilers.
Yeah.
All right. So brief synopsis: we have two guys in a cabin, sitting together, and they both work out there.
They barely talk to each other.
They've been working together in this cabin doing some unspecified thing for 5 years.
And then it's Christmas time.
And it's Christmas, and they sit down and they try and get to know each other. It's some random British guy I've never heard of, and then there's John Hamm. And John Hamm is he's a great actor, and he's just a sexy, sexy man.
Yeah, he is a great actor. I feel like watching him makes me want to watch Mad Men, even though I know it's also it's an AMC show, so there will be parts that are very hard to watch. But he's supposed to be absolutely fantastic in it, and it's supposed to be a great period piece about the 1960s.
I've seen 2 episodes.
Were they good?
Yeah, they're good.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's try and stay focused on Black Mirror here.
Yes.
They each talk about themselves, and John Hamm talks about how back before he went to the cabin, he had a hobby where he would watch someone else through, I guess there's some sort of eye implant, so he saw everything they would see, and he would talk them through social situations. And then, of course, they would sometimes stream it to other people, so they could just, he got the hookup, now we get to watch him do it, that sort of thing. And he's dating advice on the go, where he's actually walking through things, and he's looking people up on social media, so he can feed this guy information on someone in real time.
Yeah,
he meets a girl at a party, played by the woman who was Tonks in the Harry Potter series.
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah, I figured you would have picked it, because I know that Tonks is your favorite character.
She's not. She's my mom's favorite character, which is why she named my dog after her. I have not read the Harry Potter books past book 4, and I have only seen the first 4 Harry Potter movies and the final one. Because my sister was like, I really want to see this, and I want to see it with someone. And I was like, I've got nothing better to do.
How have you been a nerd and made it this far without finishing Harry Potter?
I focused on Star Trek.
At our age group, how did you get this far?
Star Trek.
I find out you haven't finished Harry Potter. I find out you drink decaf. Like, what? Who are you? I feel like I don't know you at all anymore.
Well, okay, let's be honest here. Is that really the most shocking part about me, or is it the non-alcoholic beer part?
You know what? I bitched about the non-alcoholic beer thing enough. I knew that. That's the person I knew, and now I'm finding out it's decaf. Do you just hate the fun part of all the things?
I watch Star Trek instead of Harry Potter. Yeah.
I did both. You can have room in your heart for both, Kyber.
Yeah, but so how much? Oh wait, yeah, you have seen a lot of Star Trek. Okay, never mind.
I've seen like all of TNG. I've seen most of Enterprise. I've seen most of Voyager.
How about the original series?
I've seen like 10 episodes. It was harder to find them for me because by the time I was watching Star Trek, they had gone out of syndication.
So it's all on Netflix now. That's how I managed to watch it. The original series, I don't know, just something about it.
I like
really
Evil Spock.
Yes, Evil Spock.
The Tribbles.
That was great. That was also great. Those I like the Tribbles as well.
Or the time that Spock gets super horny and he has to fight Kirk.
Oh yeah, that's right. He wasn't horny. He was like the opposite of horny because he had to marry this woman. Is that the episode you're talking about?
Right.
The one that was in Transformers.
He wanted to marry her. She didn't want to marry him, so she thought if she could make him and Kirk fight to the death, then she could be with another guy. Black Mirror.
Right. So, a different sci-fi show.
Black Mirror. So he gets a girl. She takes him back to her place, and then she actually rather than having sex, she wants to include him in her suicide. So she feeds him something spiked and then drinks it down herself. They both die. So,
let's back up a little bit here. The reason why she wanted him to commit suicide is because she saw him, like, he was just standing alone, saying, like, I can't, it's really hard to concentrate with all of you talking. All of you here in my head talking and saying things. And then she was like, oh my god, he's schizophrenic too.
You know, I know we normally do the plot rundown and then just dive into things, but I guess for the structure of this episode was really weird.
Yeah.
So I guess it'll just make more sense to move chronologically.
So, yeah, and so after that, then she's like, here, I can help you silence the voices. Drink this. And it's like
she didn't even like tell him, like she just kind of had the glass and just kind of tipped it into his mouth. It's like, here, just have some of this. And then he starts to feel funny, and, you know, John Hamm's on the other end of the mic going, like, just dude. He's trying to get him out of there, but by then it's too late, and she finishes her glass and like force feeds him the rest of his.
Yeah, and then they both die.
And then they both pass away, and then John Hamm's wife finds out what he's been doing, and then she blocks him. Yeah. Which in the future, because they have they have so much tech implanted in their heads at this point, she pulls out this little remote, and she blocks him. Which online means they can't contact you, but in real life, they basically become just a staticky silhouette, and you can't hear anything they say.
Yeah. So
you can't even you're looking. All you're seeing is just the shape.
Right. And then you're hearing noises like.
It sounds like it's almost like an underwater kind of thing. So you're aware that they're trying to speak, and you're aware that they're there, but that's all you can distinguish, and you can completely lock someone out of communication.
Yeah. So, and that was the first story.
Second story we talk about John Hamm a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because he's opening up. He's trying to get the other guy in the cabin to open up. So he's talking about his backstory. For his job, he basically works as a shrink for artificial intelligence.
Yeah, like shrink is putting it nicely.
Counselor. Well, the idea is that
mind breaker, prison guard.
Yeah, pretty much torturer.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, so we find out that you can have a little thing planted in your head, and it essentially absorbs all of your memories, your personality, your preferences, and they take it out, and then they drop it into they drop that artificial intelligence into basically this little, I think it's like a little egg. They call it a cookie. Yeah. It's this little device that has a little light on it, and it can control all your things because who knows what you want more than you do. So what kind of song you want to wake up to in the morning, how you like your toast. Toast was a big thing.
Yeah.
Which appointments do you need to keep? How do you like your coffee? All those little things. And of course, who's going to know that any better than you? So they make little AIs that know all of your preferences and things. They just leave in your head. It knows what you like. And then they just let it run your shit. Which sounds like it'd be really nice, but they've also... They're the personality, too. So essentially, you made a copy of yourself. Not just what you like, but just the entire person. They have self-awareness. And so it's John Hamm's job to break the spirits of these AI.
Right.
To the point where they'll just work for him.
Yeah, they'll work with that, like, slavery, essentially. And the way he does this is he simulates days and, he simulates time passing for them. And so they, what they do is,
He can adjust their perception of time.
Yeah. So
the AI, of course, once you're told that, hey, the you thought you were is actually just somewhere else. You're not the real you. And imagine waking up someone saying, you're not the real you anymore. You're trapped in a box. And your only job is to run this house. That is your reason for existence.
You'd be like,
imagine that. And then, of course, if people are going to be freaked out. They're going to be defiant. So he's like, you know what? You're stressed out. We'll give you 3 weeks by yourself. And so he just bumps he hits some buttons. And then the person inside, the AI, essentially feels what we would associate as 3 weeks of just silence and nothing.
Yeah. And in reality, only 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's been like 10 seconds. John Hamm, he's like checking his email. He's eating some toast.
Yeah. And then she comes back and she's like, no, please give me something to do. He's like, oh, you're ready to work now. No!
All right, 6 months. 6 months it is.
Yeah, and then he's finally like, and then she's like, please just give me something to do. So you're ready to work now? As long as there's something to do.
Right, just he breaks them to the point where they're willing to run things just to break the monotony.
Yeah. So, and then it just shows her very robotic-like, just staring at her real self, and then pushing buttons,
right,
doing
here's your toast, here's your coffee, here's your calendar for the day, here's how you like your shower.
Yeah. So, that was just creepy. That was the most disturbing part for me. That was like, I have no mouth and I must scream, sort of.
Not quite that level of horror, but just the emptiness. Just realizing that you're not who you think you are.
The ending was more like that.
The ending was a bit more like that. So we'll move on. Once Ham opens up about this a little bit more, his colleague starts to open up. He talks about how he had a relationship going on with this woman, and things went. She found out she was pregnant, and she didn't want it, and he wanted her to keep it because he got very aggressive with her when she mentioned she wanted an abortion. So you can't kill a child. He mentioned like before he thought of himself as a good person.
Yeah. And
he gets very aggressive with his girlfriend when he finds out that she is pregnant, and she didn't even tell him. He found the pregnancy test in the trash.
Yeah.
And she can't deal with the stress, and she blocks him. So we have more blocking here, where he's just a sack. He can't communicate with her, and then actually works both ways too. We find out because not only does she not have to see him, but he also, whenever he looks at her, he also sees just the static blur.
Right.
And he can't hear any voices, and it's so effective that even photos, like he's looking through photos, and in those spots, it's just the static cut out.
Right.
And he's completely cut off from her. And this technology is now so pervasive that it has legal implications. So him being blocked by this woman means that like the police can arrest him if he comes within a certain rate, like 10 meters or something of her.
Yeah. So and then he finds out she kept the baby.
Right, because he sees her, but he still sees the silhouette, but he can see that it's getting a lot rounder around the middle.
Yeah, she got a baby.
Oh my God, she's having the kid, and just to see her, he tracks her down, and he knows that she spends every Christmas at her father's cabin out in the middle of the woods. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and he keeps going to this every year just to see her, and to see his kid too. And the block, of course, not of course, but the block also extends to the child, so he can't see this child apart from a blur, but he can see that there is a child. So for years, he keeps coming back to this house every Christmas just to see the woman he loved who left him and the child. Until eventually you find out that she's passed away. And when she passes away, the block ends, and so by extension, the block on the child also ends. And he goes, and he wants to see the child, and he finds out the child is not his.
Asian.
Yeah, because he and the woman are both white, but then he finds out that the daughter is Asian, and she's been sleeping with a coworker. Because we meet one of her coworkers earlier on.
Yeah.
And we find out that she's actually the coworker's child, so that adds an extra layer of information there, so we know we have a better understanding of why she wants to keep the child a little bit less.
Yeah, and we also, like, it frames an earlier scene in a different light, because they're with this coworker and his fiance. They're with each other, like having some small, like, dinner or wine get together, and then he's talking about, like, how they got engaged. Or no, she's talking about how they got engaged, and she's, like, so in love with this guy, and he's just sort of, like, nonchalant about it, and she just, the wife, or whatever, the one who had the child, she's just, like, getting really uncomfortable about the whole thing. She just doesn't seem to want to talk about it. And, then we find out
so
why.
So we get that extra light on interactions between her and this other man.
Yeah.
And of course the grandfather, the dead mother's father, tries to shoo him out because, there's a stranger in his house who his daughter was trying to get away from. Guy can't take it and just bashes him over the head with a snow globe.
Yeah.
And leaves and just walks out and leaves the guy for dead. And then the little girl tries to go get help and she freezes to death.
Yeah. Because this is a remote cabin.
It's a remote cabin and it's Christmas and it's the middle of winter.
So she leaves on Boxing Day. Yeah, she spends Christmas alone with a corpse, and then leaves on Boxing Day. That is horrific. So
yep.
he confesses to the murder, and then we find out this is a simulation.
Right. We find out that John Hamm and the guy who tells the story about how he killed this man and the whole backstory. He's interacting with one of the AI cookies.
Yeah.
He's not interacting with the actual person. So it's the whole thing was just John Hamm in the simulation trying to get this guy to crack and confess. They're at a police station, and the entire thing was just this giant ruse to trick a confession out of a guy.
Yeah. And so then when he confesses, turns out, like, the whole thing only took place in 17 minutes, but it seemed like 5 years.
Right, because they were able just to time something. And to me, like, the most terrifying thing from this special, well, there's nobody gets a happy ending.
No.
It's Black Mirror. Nobody's allowed to have a happy ending. So, John Hamm's got this guy to crack. And so the police said, well, you're free to go now because you helped us out. But because, you did the whole peeping Tom thing and didn't report the murder-suicide, you're blocked by everyone.
Yeah.
So he leaves and he's completely unable to interact with another human being, period. And everyone else sees that he's got the same static barrier or same static outline, but he's bright red.
Yeah.
So he just has to wear this emblem of that he's done something terrible. He's on the list. You don't know exactly what he's done, but you know it's been bad. It's so bad that he does not deserve to interact with another human being.
I kind of assumed that meant, like, he is now a registered sex offender, and now it's, like, easier. You can point them out. They're the red silhouettes.
Well, that and just how terrifying. Like, even in America, I don't know what sex offender laws are in the UK, and I realize that things might very well get sucky here, so I'll be a bit brief about it. Where it's just there's, like, once you're on the list, it's for life, and it's not just, being on the sex offender list could also mean something like, you got drunk and you publicly urinated. Well, your bits were out, you're on the sex offender list. Or I know for teenagers right now too, it's very complicated because they send each other the pictures, and there are some cases where, like, say a 16 or 17-year-old would do this, and they're classified as both the victim of child pornography, but also the provider of child pornography, and so they can get persecuted or they can get prosecuted for having pictures of themselves, and you're on that list.
Would Vanessa Hudgens? No, wait, she was 18 at the time. Never mind.
Yep. And that's all we're gonna say about that because this gets very ugly very quick. So that's all we're gonna say about that. But it's this idea of, well, we know they did something bad. We don't know exactly what it was, but obviously if they deserve this, they have this label, then clearly they're a monster.
Yeah, and that I found disturbing, but the most disturbing part for me was when one of the guys at the police precinct, you saw him like winding up the time thing for the cookie. And then she said, and then his boss said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm making it 1,000 years per minute."
1,000 years per minute. Oh, that's right. Should I turn him off? No, leave him on. It's Christmas.
Yeah, leave him on for Christmas. So he's going to spend 1,000 years per minute. That's...
Hold on, I have a calculator. I have a computer.
Okay. It would be 60 times 1,000 times 24.
All right, well, let's just assume 24 hours.
Yeah.
Christmas. If the calculator will load. Thank you, Windows 10. So we have 1,000 years per minute per minute. Yeah. Times 60 minutes in an hour.
Yep.
Times 24 hours. They have created a new consciousness that has self-awareness. The new consciousness has not itself done anything wrong. The person it was based on has done the crime. Yeah. And they are in a cell. But the new life they created now has to spend 1,440,000 years in solitary confinement.
Yeah. With nothing but the cabin that he was in when he killed that guy, and also looking out the window, he can see the dead girl.
So he's...
And Christmas music also.
And I think that's the worst part, is perpetual Christmas music.
So he has to spend that long in solitary confinement. It's awful. Of just Christmas alone, over and over again, with two corpses.
At the scene of the worst thing you have ever done, you have to live there by yourself for 1.5 million years.
Yeah, that to me was the "I have no mouth and I must scream" moment. Because that, for those of you who don't know that short story, what happens is, spoiler alert if you decide to read it.
It's a short
Harlan Ellison. Yeah,
it's a short story by Harlan Ellison. Apocalyptic future, and there's this man who's kept alive forever by a computer who hates him, and eventually just morphs it, or just eventually uses its abilities to turn him into this giant, just like nightmarish mass of flesh that is not given a mouth. So perpetual terror and physically being unable to scream.
Yeah, and it starts off with like a group of people, but all of them want to die, but they're all kept alive by this computer because it wants to play with them. So eventually, at one point, he does actually manage to kill all of them, but he's unable. But that's when he transforms into this slug, and he can't move.
He's melted, essentially. He's melted into just a giant blob of flesh at that point.
Yeah, and so he says I've been alive for 100,000 years or something, and I don't want to say it, but I only think it's been 100,000 years. He lost track of time, and it's been an eternity since he's had an interaction with anyone. And this, he's just this little slug. He's just a slug. He can't move fast enough to crack his own head open. He can't kill himself in any way. And honestly, dying would be the only way this could have a happy ending, but it's impossible. And when dying is impossible and it's the happy ending, that is terrifying.
That's when you know you've written some twisted shit.
Yes, and it's done by the guy who was fired from Disney for joking about making a porno with characters.
Now you're talking about
Harlan Ellison.
Harlan Ellison.
Yes.
Not the guy who wrote for Black Mirror.
No. Harlan Ellison wrote for He was hired by Disney way back in, I think, the 50s or 60s, a long time ago. No, I think it would be the 50s, because that was before he became big as a sci-fi writer. I'm 100% sure, though.
I know Rick and Morty actually had a bit, the machine of unspeakable doom. What was it? I've got the Wikipedia up so I know exactly what it says. Machine described as to swap your conscious and unconscious minds, rendering your fantasies pointless, while everything you've known becomes impossible to grasp. Also, every 10 seconds it stabs you in the balls.
Love Rick and Morty.
So there we go. We broke the tension a little bit there. Yeah, that's sci-fi. You know what? The one thing sci-fi is best at almost than anything else is coming up with insane ways to turn people's lives into nightmares.
Right. Essentially, the main story about every Black Mirror episode, the main moral is that technology is scary.
No, you know what? I'm going to disagree with you. The moral is never technology is scary. The moral is always humans are scary, humans are destructive, and all you have to do is give them enough tools, and they will wreck themselves.
I simplified it to technology is scary.
No, the technology's not scary. People are scary. People are scary, and you give them these amazing tools. And all they use the tools for is self-destruction in one way or another.
Yeah, so, I know what you're saying.
Right, like the first episode, the one with the guy who kidnaps the princess and orders the prime minister to fuck a pig, is just how, now that we have all this technology, all of our lives are much more convenient, all of our information is much more accessible, but now it's so much more possible for one savvy lunatic to hold an entire country hostage. And this year we have that, and then there's the episode with Waldo where they have where it just shows what can happen if you have a false idol, and it's all people. If you give them enough rope, they will hang themselves. Is the moral of every Black Mirror episode, especially the one with the guy who he has the implant so he can rewatch all of his memories over and over again.
Yeah.
Where all he does is he just analyzes everything until it just becomes obsessed and it tears him apart. Yeah. So that's been the moral of every episode of Black Mirror is humans are self-destructive, and the more powerful tools you give them, the more creative and effective ways they will have to destroy themselves.
I would be tempted to call the Black Mirror a new type of genre. New cyberpunk, I would say, because it almost blends transhumanism and cyberpunk. Because here's the difference between the two. Transhumanism is when tech is a subgenre of sci-fi where it takes place in the near future that shows mankind making technology, using technology to overcome obstacles that they have previously encountered. Cyberpunk is when mankind builds technology that does not. And so, the earliest cyberpunk novel, I believe, is Neuromancer. It's about a guy who is addicted to, drugs, and he's living in Tokyo, I believe. And there's, all this other neat stuff that goes on with it. But essentially, there are these things that are in... I think there's these things in it. I know they're in Shadowrun. They're called Better Than Life chips. What happens is it's basically the new drug. It's a little computer chip that has a simulated life that people go into, and it makes their dreams come true in a virtual sense. And they just love this place so much that they get addicted to it. They don't want to go back to reality. And that's cyberpunk at its core, is when people, it makes their lives better, but at a huge cost. Transhumanism is more like, trying to think, her, maybe?
I've actually not seen her.
I haven't seen it either. It's essentially, people have, like, I guess it would be like, I don't know, smartphones, or whatever. Their lives are definitely better.
Transhumanism is the idea that technology will improve our lives.
Yes.
Cyberpunk is the idea that our qualities of life are more or less locked in, and no matter how much we progress, we will still have all of those. We will still be unhappy.
Yes. And that I feel like Black Mirror sort of blends the two sometimes. Like and I'm just gonna call it a new subgenre, new cyberpunk.
All right, there we go. So Black Mirror, but you've been reclassified. Call the BBC.
Yes, get William Gibson to write a few episodes.
Well, I know I mentioned this last episode. I'm really excited. Netflix picked up another 18 episodes.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fantastic. They're like 3 episodes a season, so we're getting 6 seasons.
With that, yeah.
Hold on,
essentially,
let me look this up. I fact check everything.
I think Netflix would probably run it as 1 season, but yeah, essentially that would be.
Well, I know the production value on some of these are so high.
Yeah.
And everything they do in these is just so complicated. It's all in there. Since they're about an hour runtime, you're essentially making movies.
Yeah, just like short.
You're essentially making
movies.
you're essentially making just like a minimum runtime for a movie is about 90 minutes. So you're making 2/3 of a movie.
Yeah. Every second counts on these. Really, it's just done so well.
Well, one of my 12 new episodes. 12 new episodes. So bring our total up to 18 episodes plus a Christmas special.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about Black Mirror is it wastes no time trying to explain how things work. And it almost never has someone sit back and explain to you a thing. It shows you a thing in action, and then you understand it because you've seen it.
Right.
Which is one of the things I never really realized I loved about it until I rewatched the Christmas special. Because I watched it twice now. I watched it twice in the span of about 10 days, just for you guys. And also because I really liked it. And also because John Hamm is a sexy, sexy man.
Yes, he is.
Where, they don't say, well, now we're in the future and we have, now you can, get a thing implanted and it can control your house. And now it's, you see a woman in a hospital going in for the procedure to have the cookie removed. And so you see that, and then the story picks up from the point of view of the new AI, from the cookie. And then John Hamm gives her, a 20-second explanation of what she is, and then you see everything else. Demonstrates, push the button, make the toast.
Right.
And you see how all it turns out, and so because they've gotten rid of all the exposition, you can focus on the human drama. You don't need to know all the intricacies of this device. You just need to know that it creates copies of people, and you have to break their wills to get them to work for you.
Yeah. I gotta watch 30 Rock again in order to get back into my, I love John Hamm, not because he's a creepy bastard, but because he's just a sexy man type of thing. Because in 30 Rock, he was a total dumbass, but he was lovable because he didn't understand.
Yeah, it wasn't his whole character that he was really handsome, so he just basically got to skate by on everything for free.
Yeah, and then he at one point he ends up cutting off his own arm because someone told him he was really good at.
Or was he trying to wave by it? He got off a helicopter and he waved or something.
Oh yeah, something like that. It was again his whole. Someone said he's really good at something, so he ended up accidentally cutting his own arm off, and then it got replaced, and that's the joke for the rest of the show.
Arc?
Well, no, for the rest of the show, because it happens after, spoiler alert, it happens after he breaks up with Liz. Or Liz breaks up with him.
I feel like after a point our spoiler alerts are getting less sincere.
Yeah.
You can't just say spoiler alert and then like you put it at the beginning so they have time to go check it out. Like you can't just say spoiler alert and then just continue to talk without a pause. I feel like that defeats the purpose of the spoiler warning.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: Darth Vader is Luke's father. Ha.
Fuck.
Oh god. Oh, I don't even know. Should we do a Star Wars episode?
I don't. I feel like there's nothing left to say about Star Wars at this point.
No.
By this point, for anyone listening to this to the back catalog, Star Wars Episode 7 has just come out. It's been a big hit. It's basically been the pop culture phenomenon of the decade.
So Star Wars taught me a new word: enneology. It's when there's 9. It's trilogy, but for 9 things. So, Star Wars trilogy, Star Wars enneology. It's now a Star Wars.
Wouldn't it be, to keep with geometry? Wouldn't it be a nonology?
I looked that up. Apparently, that's the informal way of saying it. It's like
a nonagon is a 9-sided figure.
Right. It's enneology because of like the Latin root or something. I thought it was a nonology at first as well, but I looked it up. Apparently, the formal way of saying it is enneology, but the informal way is nonology.
Yeah.
And same goes for septilogy. Oh, quadrilogy.
Right, 4 parts.
Yeah, that's not the right word. It's tetralogy.
Right, because Greek versus Latin.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I feel like we have enough on the back burner, and I don't feel like I have anything to contribute to Star Wars at this point.
Yeah, same.
It was good. I liked it.
And people have already said tons more than we could ever say about it.
Right. Like it's...
I have not read the Thrawn trilogy, but I heard it's really good, and that's where The Force Awakens draws a lot of inspiration from. The Thrawn trilogy was the original sequel trilogy in the books.
Right. The books that nobody read. Except for Buzz. Buzz has read the books.
Yes.
Friend of ours.
Yes, friend of ours. And there's been quite a few people that that have read it, and that's how you differentiate between the Star Wars lovers and the Star Wars nerds. Is if they read the Thrawn trilogy, if they know the Thrawn trilogy, if they know who Mara Jade is.
It's not if they read like the big trilogy. It's like, did you read the Grand Moff Tarkin book? Because Grand Moff Tarkin, like the D-list villain who's under Darth Vader,
the guy who's portrayed by famed B-movie actor, just forgot his name.
The guy who does nothing but hit the button and blow up Alderaan. He got his own book.
He
which is a big deal. When I say it out loud, it's a big deal. But like when his only purpose in the movies was to tell another dude to hit a button. He got his own book.
See, he actually had a bigger part than what you're saying. Now, what I think is crazy is that Pruneface got his own action figure. Remember Pruneface?
Which one was Pruneface?
He's the guy that was in the background of when they were explaining how to blow up the Death Star.
You know what? It's Star Wars. Everybody got an action figure.
Yes. And I believe he actually got his own background. So did, I don't remember the droid's name, but the one that they were originally going to buy from the Jawas.
Oh yeah, because it's like, here's this one, here's like the red R2-D2. Don't buy the red R2-D2. Buy the blue R2-D2. The red R2-D2 got a backstory?
Yes. He was actually working for the Rebel Alliance. He knew that they would. Yes, he knew that they would like buy him, and he was like, "Oh crap! Buy R2, buy R2! Look, I'm falling apart. Buy R2."
Oh my god! So the robot, intentionally made itself look shit to get him to buy R2-D2.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Also, Boba Fett fanboys. Nothing in the books counts anymore. I know he doesn't. It's popular now to make fun of Boba Fett, and I'm also jumping on the making fun of Boba Fett fan bandwagon.
So
he doesn't do much. Like, he does nothing in the movies.
Honestly, no, he doesn't. It's really like
because we only see him because he gets hired to capture Han Solo, and Vader has to tell him no disintegration because he must be such a shitty bounty hunter that he doesn't realize not to disintegrate the target or you can't get paid. And then Vader does all the work to capture Han and freezes him in carbonite, so the only bounty he does pick up is essentially literally gift-wrapped for him.
Yeah.
And then he takes it to Jabba, and then all he gets to do in Return of the Jedi is he gets his button pushed and he flies into the Sarlacc pit.
Boba Fett is only a badass in the expanded universe.
I have no problem with Boba Fett. It's just I can make fun of Boba Fett, and all of the hardcore Star Wars nerds lose their shit when I do.
Right.
So it's just so much fun to make fun of Boba Fett. I like him. Like, he's got a cool character design. He seems interesting. I'm sure he does plenty of cool stuff in the expanded universe, but I can use it to make fun of people, and I'm okay with that.
I feel like each of the trilogies has had their own badass that
That doesn't really do much.
Yeah, sort of. That everyone loses their shit over, but doesn't really do much. There's Boba Fett for the original trilogy. There's Darth Maul for the prequel trilogy. He did one of the coolest. That might be my favorite lightsaber battle, because it really shows the Eastern influence. You got Qui-Gon. He looks very Shaolin monk like. He's like a samurai. When the two of them get thrown between a laser wall, he's just sitting there meditating.
Meditates.
Yeah, and
meditates in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, and then Darth Maul is sitting there pacing, watching him like a rabid dog, just biding his time. That was cool. Other than that, though, he gets cut in half. He has one other lightsaber battle, but then he gets cut in half, and then in the books or comics or something, he gets robot legs, but he.
No, it's in the cartoon series, which is canon still.
Oh.
He gets robot legs.
Oh, sweet. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So
I'm told I need to watch the cartoon series.
I'm told.
I've got
Same.
other shit to watch. So anyway, getting back to Black Mirror.
Oh no, sorry.
We
one
got off
last
on.
thing. The sequel trilogy, T8R8. Or no, sorry.
TR8R.
TR8R. He's the new one.
He's the one stormtrooper who just goes traitor, and he takes out the electric riot baton.
Yeah.
See, I was actually gonna say Captain Phasma is the one who doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't do much.
I really want to see more from Phasma, because even setting aside wanting to see more women in the Star Wars universe, that costume design is just way too badass to not do more with.
Yeah. I feel like that's why part of the reason Boba Fett was so cool is his costume design.
His costume design is great, because they actually did the epic rap battle. It was Boba Fett versus Deadpool.
Yeah.
Because Boba Fett's you only had 5 lines in the trilogy, and one of them was He says, I only need 5 lines because I look fucking great. And that's Boba Fett's. That's all of Boba Fett right there.
Right. TR8R had 1 line and 1 fight, but everyone has lost their shit about it.
Well, the thing is, TR8R is actually doing things. He's a guy who, he's almost the anti-Boba Fett, where he looks no different from any of the other stormtroopers, and he just kind of shows up out of nowhere. But he just, he attacks Finn, and there's a backstory there, and there's you're actually seeing all this stuff carried out. It's all show, no tell.
Yeah.
As opposed to Boba Fett, where it's all tell, no show. You he's a bounty hunter because they say he's a bounty hunter, because he's a badass. It's, or with Darth Maul, where it's obviously he's a badass. He's got the red and black face paint and the horns, and it's all build up, and there's very little action, as opposed to TR8R, where he just kind of shows up out of nowhere, and it's all just him doing things, and then we never see him again. Right.
I'm sure we're gonna get a expanded
he's
universe.
in the book somewhere.
Yeah.
Now there's more books. Now you have 2 canons to keep track of. Anyway, I don't want to get too far away from Black Mirror, because there's so much going on there. Because you have this idea of, is it ethical to create an AI that has self-awareness and make it work for you? Because I know it's not uncommon to have AI working for you in sci-fi.
Right.
It's not uncommon at all. It's pretty much a standard. You assume, hell, I just installed Windows 10 on my computer yesterday. I have Cortana built in now. I have a voice-recognizing AI in the device I'm using to record this episode. We have that.
Yeah.
But it's this idea of, what if it becomes self-aware? Is it ethical to make it work for you? And the way that they deliver this so well is they base it on a person. So here you have a person and you're making it work for you. You wouldn't condemn a person to become your virtual slave. Why are you creating a consciousness to do this for you.
Yeah.
So is it ethical at all to create an artificial intelligence which can become self-aware?
Yeah, that I thought was a really... It was not only a really unique sort of new look at this technology, but it was a really creepy way of doing it. So,
there's that, and then there's this idea of blocking someone. Because I know we spend more and more time on social media.
Yeah.
There's more and more ways to screw with people, but you can usually find some way to block them.
Yeah.
I think almost every social media platform has a way to block someone you don't want to interact with.
I'm trying to think of one that doesn't. Does MySpace have that? Yeah, probably
MySpace.
does. Yeah.
We're topical. This is how topical we are. Is we can MySpace.
Owned by Justin Timberlake.
Did Justin Timberlake buy MySpace?
Yes.
Okay.
Now he can be your first friend.
Bernie Burns on Rooster Teeth has this great way of putting things into perspective when anything we talk about new media is just remember that right now, Tila Tequila still has millions of MySpace friends.
And she still believes that the Earth is flat. She's a princess from the moon. She's a clone of the princess from the moon.
Obviously,
she was
actually
killed.
Being a princess from the moon is something David Bowie does and no one else gets to do.
Right. The actual princess from the moon was killed by the reptilian Illuminati gods.
Yeah, okay, I'll buy that. It's no weirder than any of the other sci-fi shit I read.
Look at her Twitter. Just read her Twitter.
Oh fuck no! We'll one thing at a time, Kyber. One thing at a time. Yeah, so there's this...
She should write a book.
So, imagine being just completely cut off. Like you can just cut a person out of your life.
Yeah.
To the point where they can't even look at photos of you.
Turning social media into real life.
Turning social media into a weapon at that point.
Yeah. Because you can block someone in real life. You can... I don't remember what the other things were. Contact someone in real life, like just with your eyes,
right,
or
you can have like a restraining order.
Yeah.
But a person can still find a way to get into your life. But now at this point, like you can't even. They can't. All they see is just this gray outline. All they see is static.
Right.
And they can't hear you.
So
you're basically become a ghost.
Yeah. So real life has become, in this world, real life has become a social media. Has become a social website or whatever.
Well, the thing is I like about it is they didn't connect it to any platform.
Right.
They didn't try to connect it to some Facebook lookalike. It was just a thing they did. It was just they had the remote that controls all of their cybernetics. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Now you're blocked. And that's the end of it. And the creepiest thing, too, is not only do you not have to see or hear the person ever again, but they can't interact with you at all. There's not only the legal repercussions, but not even to me the photos were what got me. Is you can't even have a memory of a person anymore.
Right.
The blocking is just so absolute.
Until they die. And
then it extends to the family, which makes a lot of sense. Because you don't want someone going after your kids, obviously. You don't want someone going after your loved ones to get to you. But it's. In John Hamm's bit, they talk about it a little bit where it's a thing you can do just as an impulse too. Like you can reverse it, but it's just so easy to just make a person essentially dead to you now.
Yeah. This was just probably the creepiest episode for me.
To me, it's second only to that very first episode, which I've talked about back when we covered season 1, where the guy kidnaps the princess and basically holds all of England hostage.
Yeah.
Not all of England, but the prime minister.
Did they have your princess is in another castle joke in there? I can't remember.
Kind of.
I know they found the decoy.
He made it look like he was broadcasting out at one point, and then they sent the SWAT team, and then he left a little note on a dummy that said "nice try."
Oh, I thought I couldn't remember if it was "nice try" or look again or
I would have definitely remembered it a lot more if they had said your princess in another castle. I feel like that would have been too fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
That would have been too referent. I feel like that would have broken the tension of the scene.
Yeah. But
broken.
So Black Mirror is a great show. Looking forward to seeing more of it because it's been a while since we've had a Twilight Zone thing this good since the Twilight Zone remake in the early 2000s.
Well, it's so powerful to see well-done sci-fi, high-concept sci-fi.
Right.
And I feel like we're starting to see more and more of it because right now we have so much media everywhere that you have to stand out if you want to make an impact.
Right.
So I feel like things like streaming services, stuff like Netflix, stuff like on demand, it's forcing television to become better.
Right.
And we're seeing some spectacular things from that.
Yeah, like the CW, DCU, DCW as we
DCW,
call it.
you know what? That's also for another day. Like the Flash and the Arrow, they're all been good. Stuff like AMC, Orange is the New Black.
Yes, yeah, and Breaking Bad.
And then everything Marvel's brought to Netflix too. Because Jessica Jones was spectacular, Daredevil was fantastic.
Yeah. So basically, we're living in an age where TV is just that good.
Well, there's a person I know, and I was talking with her at one point, and she said she hates watching fiction. She has no time to waste on things that have not happened.
Okay.
She watches reality television. She's a big fan of the Kardashians, by the way, which reality television is complete fiction in and of itself.
Yeah, I feel like we should start using the Kuehl theory.
But that's, the reality television is actually all staged. That's a complete other discussion. But it's this idea that through something like science fiction, we can find new ways to approach ideas and force you to think in ways that your everyday life would not confront you with. And it challenges you in ways that real life cannot.
Right. And and also it's fun. Like, we would never see a superhero just like zip through some city at like the speed of sound, and now we can. I don't know. It's fun.
It's some of it's wish fulfillment, sure, but I know science fiction especially.
Yeah.
Is a genre to challenge you.
Yes.
Well, almost. I'm completely pulling this out of nowhere right now. I'm just going. So I might have to revise this. I very much might have to revise this later. But to me, science fiction at its core, and when it's done well, is a genre that forces you to confront things in a different way. Yeah. More so than anything else.
So one of my favorite science fiction stories, I guess, would be this one by Isaac Asimov. It's called The Final Question. It's actually probably the most hopeful story about technology I've ever heard. I'm just gonna tell you the whole thing. So sorry, spoiler alert here. If
no more mid podcast spoiler alerts.
Okay, so what happens is Isaac Asimov, he wrote this story. Everyone should know about the heat death of the universe, the eventual heat death of the universe. There's only so much energy in the universe that eventually it'll all burn up. And so, like in the near future, there will be this space station that has this computer called the vacuum AC, and it can tell you anything you want, any question you want to know. And these two like janitors or something are talking to each other. They're like, and one of them tells the other one about the heat death of the universe, and he's like, that won't happen. There's got to be a way to stop that. He's like, no, trust me, there's no way to stop it. How would you? And so then they're like, well, let's just settle this with the vacuum AC. Vacuum AC, how would you stop the heat death of the universe? Or no, is there a way to stop the heat death of the universe? And the vacuum AC says, further research required, or cannot be answered at this time, something like that. And then they're like, oh, well, whatever. So they go back to drinking. And then it shows like 1,000 years in the future, this family starting a new colony on a new planet, and they ask it the same question. This father explains to his kids about the heat death of the universe. They get scared, so the mom is like, oh, don't scare them. Listen, kids, it's okay, right? And the dad's like, oh, yeah, don't worry, we can reverse it, right? Right, cosmic AC or whatever.
Vac AC?
No, the name changes.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, it keeps changing, because it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and so then he asks him like, is there a way to reverse the heat death of the universe? and it says the same thing. More research required, or cannot answer at this time. And then goes like more, a million years in the future, and there's like these, people are establishing new civilizations on entire galaxies, and then like this politician asks the same question, gets the same answer, and then mankind has evolved to be like these spiritual body type of things, and stars are burning out, and everyone is trying to their hardest to bunch stars together to make a star that will burn brightly for a while at least, but it just burns twice as fast, just burns brighter. And so then they ask the computer, which has now existed to function beyond physical means, and they ask it the same question, and it has the same answer. And so then mankind has now evolved to be one singular being, and the last star is about to burn out. And it asks the computer, like, we're about to leave this dimension, the universe, because we cannot see a way to, because there is no way we can live here. There is nothing here for us. So we would like to ask you one last time, is there a way to reverse the heat death of the universe? And it says the same answer. We are unable to answer at this time. And it says, okay, well, continue searching. And so then the man leaves the universe, and time and space have become meaningless. There's just a void of nothingness and the computer. And then it finally comes up with an answer. And it discovers that there is no one to tell the answer, so it demonstrates it. And it says, let there be light. And then there was light. So, I don't know, I found that to be kind of clever. Isaac Asimov was a clever guy.
Well, then it's even stuff like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of takes all this darkness and turns it all on its head and just turns the whole thing into this... It basically just makes the universe absurd and meaningless at the same time.
It's like Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty.
And Futurama.
I know PBS Idea Channel did this really great video about how Futurama is, in and of itself, an argument against transhumanism. Mm. And that the more technology we get, we're just going to use it on things like alcoholic robots. And
yeah,
we're just going to find more dumb shit to do with technology. Because as good as you can make technology, it's still being run by meat people. Basically, you're still being
meat bags.
You're still being run by meat bags. And even going back to Black Mirror about this, the guy the policeman who sets the AI for 1.5 million years of solitary confinement.
Yeah.
He's not a judge. He's not he's just some police officer who's petty that he couldn't get a confession out of this guy, but John Hamm could. And so it's when he comes up with this punishment, there's no legal framework for it. It's just this one guy being petty that he couldn't be the one to get the confession, and he has this power to put someone through an unimaginable torture.
Yeah, it's that, and I completely forgot that he couldn't get a confession out of the guy. So
yeah, it's something I picked up. I'm glad I watched it the second time because I'm glad I picked up on that.
Yeah, I completely missed that. But yeah, when the more technology evolves, the more laws we'll have, I'm sure, to like sort of keep up with them.
Well, technology's growth increases exponentially.
Yeah.
So let's look at the growth of technology between 1950 and 1960.
Yeah.
Now look at the growth of technology from 2006 to 2016.
Yeah, so
let's just say an easy one, phones. In 2006, I still had a gray flip phone that you had to pull out an antenna for it, and the most advanced thing it was able to do, it was able to run this little pixelated dog cartoon in the background. I could kind of play Tetris on it, kind of.
I could play Snake on mine.
Now, my Galaxy S6 that I have in my pocket right now, that's probably more powerful than than the computer I was using in 2006.
Yeah, so technology is just increased like a sharp.
And what is it? I think it's Moore's law, where processing power
Oh yeah.
doubles every 18 months, or is it storage capacity doubles every 18 months, or processing power? Let me double check that.
Yeah.
We fact check our shit here on this show.
And I found out that they're developing a new technology called like crystal technology, which allows you to store physical data on like some sort of new crystal disk thing, and that thing will last for a long time. And I'm talking about like surpass civilizations long time.
Oh, I'll do you one better. There are scientists who actually developed a way to encode digital information into DNA.
Oh God.
Right now,
Black
it's just a
Mirror is
powder.
happening.
So right now, it's like just this powder that they can break down and analyze. It's like mummy dust.
Ooh.
It's not like they putting it in a living being is not practical because errors can happen in cell transcription.
Right.
So putting this thing in, like even just like putting this in there, is a thing. Errors happen. That's how mutations occur. That's how cancer happens. Mutation is a thing.
Right.
It's going to copy things correctly. Here we go. Moore's law. The observation that over the history of computing hardware, the number of transistors in a dense integrated circuit has doubled approximately every 2 years. And it's all true. And it's only getting better and better. But my point is, with exponential technology, is that there's no way a legal system can keep up with that.
Right.
Like right now, our laws are laughably out of date. Because I know, like, even our copyright laws can't have no idea how to handle the internet. So that, and I'm gonna soapbox a little bit right now. We are in America, and most of the people making our laws are a bunch of old guys. Like
Yeah.
And they have no idea how any of this works. That's why we get stuff like the Stop Online Piracy Act.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that one.
And I read one account.
Sopa.
I read one account where a woman was receiving death threats on Twitter. And so she went to the police, and the police officer didn't really even understand enough about what Twitter was to help her out, and just refused to help her because he just didn't understand it.
What happened to her?
I think I'm pretty sure things got resolved for her.
Okay.
I want to say this was an NPR story because I love On the Media is my favorite podcast. I listen to that weekly. I'd never miss an episode of On the Media. I've listened to some episodes a couple times too.
I'm a dweeb. I listened to This Week in Chiptune.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so legally, we have no way of keeping up with technology. And actually, in a way, Black Mirror, this episode, has been more positive in that direction than real life, in that they have legal consequences if you do enough violating if someone's blocking you. So if someone's blocked you and you're still being enough of a nuisance, they can send police to legally enforce that. So when you think about it like that, it's almost more optimistic in that laws are in some way keeping up with technology.
Yeah. One other scary thing, which Black Mirror actually didn't go into this, but I believe the more advanced technology gets, the more advanced maybe or clever hackers get.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, I watched a Game Theory episode.
The Watch underscore Dogs episode, talking about how most of the hacking they do. There's a video game where you basically play as a hacker, and
It's really good.
You fight crime or you start crime, whether you're playing Paragon or Renegade. You can basically just hack everything with your cell phone. So if you're walking on the street, you can hack an ATM from your phone, or you can fuck with the traffic lights or fuck with people's the onboard system for the cars, that sort of thing. And most of the base technology for that does currently exist, and it is vulnerable. And even, let's talk, not even just forgetting about how laws can't keep up with technology. Right now, security can't keep up with technology because we have things like smart cars and the program infrastructure for those things are completely vulnerable because they figure no one's going to hack it, and then they do.
There was a guy, I want to say it was for Wired. He actually did an experiment. He asked these two hackers if they could, hijack this car from a remote location for him. And he got in the car, started driving it, and he was like, okay, nothing going wrong so far. And then suddenly, it stopped. And then it backed up, started driving around, doing all this other crazy stuff. He was complete, and it locked, by the way. I believe that...
they locked him inside, and they had control of his car.
Yeah. And so the experiment was a success. And they were all the way back in, his office, which was, I don't know, a few blocks away. Or several blocks away. It was not anywhere nearby. It wasn't like they were, at a parking lot and these guys were just, on the side. No, they were...
It's not like they were, 20 feet away.
Right. They were far enough away that it was just scary. It sounded scary.
By the way, most hacking is not what we think of as hacking. It's not like in the 90s where there's the one guy just tapping the keyboard fast enough and they get through. Most of the time with hacking, no matter what security protocols you have in place, it's still a human who has to set things up. And a lot of times they'll do something like password or 1234. And that's how most hackers get in, is they're not pulling any sort of breaking through firewalls or anything. It's just they're guessing your password, or they do the thing forgot password. And then, sometimes they'll even just see you on Facebook, even just look you up on Facebook, okay, security question, what's the name of your pet? Look up Facebook. The name of the pet is Cuddles. Here you go. And it's usually really low, it's really just low tech stuff like that is how the majority of hacking happens. Or the Sony hack that happened last year.
Oh yeah.
The Sony hack. I've got a family member who actually works in computers, and he followed this pretty closely. Evidently, there was the one guy in charge of cybersecurity at Sony. Once they got into his desktop, he had an entire folder just labeled passwords.
Oh my god.
And it's no matter how sophisticated of a system we build, it's still being built by people, and it still has all of those human flaws.
There's an episode of Silicon Valley, which hopefully we will get to eventually, where this guy happened to hack into this big security, or no, not this big technology firm. He managed to get all their data and whatever, all this other stuff, and it was because he saw the guy's password. It was on a Post-it note on his computer.
And
he just passed by it, looked at it, and then just wrote it down, and managed to hijack their stuff.
There was a time too where I thought, you know what, I'm losing track of my passwords. I'm just gonna write them down and put them in my put them on a note card and put them in my wallet. And then I realized that's absolutely stupid, because if someone ever takes my wallet or I ever lose my wallet, not only does someone have all my cash and my credit cards, but I have all the passwords with which to use all of my shit.
Yeah. Technology is scary.
That's
humans are scary.
Humans are scary, and
humans make technology.
Right, and that's basically Black Mirror in a nutshell. Is no matter how sophisticated you get, no matter how smart anything you build is, people are still infinitely more capable of finding ways to screw that up.
Yeah, time to go lighten the mood now and watch Rick and Morty or something. I don't know. I need to.
We just need to go watch.
Yes.
We just need to go watch the bit about the machine of unspeakable doom.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a parody of high concept sci-fi. So
Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty in itself has become its own high concept sci-fi.
Right.
So I think we're coming up on the 90-minute mark.
Yeah.
Black Mirror is spectacular. A lot of stuff going on there. I think we covered pretty much all of that. So here's some more 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Woo.